Welcome to the Jeremy and Andy Talk Movies podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Andy.
And this week, Andy, we are heading to a dystopian world
We are.
and where we are observing just a fatal competition among teenagers. And it's not the Hunger Games.
It's not. That's what
I
this
think,
movie should have been called, not The Hunger Games.
Exactly. I'm certain that there is a lot of people of a certain age thought, man, this is kind of a Hunger Games ripoff, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
everybody of a certain age thinks any dystopian sort of battle royale, running man, this type thing is a Hunger Games ripoff. Little do they
Right.
know. Of course, what we're talking about is The Long Walk.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a Stephen King adaptation and a movie that I think we were both curious about. I was curious because it's such a simple premise. I'm always, how are you going to pull
Right.
off such a simple premise? How are you going to have just people walking? And obviously, the violence is the part that you think like, well, that's going to be what keeps you watching. But I was like, I don't know if this does it have enough going on. I was really curious about the runtime when it was an hour 48. I was like, I really expected this to be about as short as a movie can be because of the simple
Right.
premise. It's like, how can you drag this out? Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I should probably do is just give a description of the movie and then have us jump in with our initial feelings about the movie. So here's my summary.
Let's do it.
In a dystopian version of the United States, an annual competition is held in which one representative from each of the 50 states is chosen to compete in the Long Walk, a fatal competition in which whoever walks the longest wins a fortune and one wish granted, while the other 49 are executed. Andy,
Yeah.
was The Long Walk good?
I do think it was good. I really enjoyed this movie, and I had the same thoughts and curiosities that you did. And for the most part, I have a few nitpicks, but for the most part, I was really engaged in this movie and really enjoyed it.
I thought that this movie was brutal. I thought it was gross, and I thought it was beautiful. I was actually blown away by this film. I loved
Yeah,
it.
it was really good.
I think there is so much humanity in this film, and
It's
it's
crazy.
one of the best portrayals of male friendship that we've had in film. Maybe ever. I don't know, in a long time. Like, yeah,
I was going to say the same thing. It's so refreshing, even if it's in the midst of this. Like, this is a really violent and really gross movie in a lot of parts, but it was so refreshing to see what did feel like genuine male friendship. So many times it's either done, I don't know, wrong is the right word, or like so many times, just like you get just like a bunch of dudes together and they just immediately go with like, well, we're just crude and we're all these different things. And this is a movie that, just guys having like real thoughts and emotions and feelings, that they didn't go too heavy. They wonderfully balanced. Like, they would have these deep, heavy conversations, and then they would have just like some dude conversations, like just meaningless, just conversations like dudes have. And they really balanced it well in the midst of all this horrible stuff going on. So yeah, it was really impressive.
yeah. I thought going into it, I thought so much of this movie is going to ride on whether or not we enjoy spending time with the characters. Just thinking, because the simple premise is it's going to be characters walking for so long. We're just going to follow people walking. And I'm like, I'm sure there'll be moments of like, the sort of shock value of the violence and the like, there will be that dread that they're trying to build. But I'm like, I really only feel like it's going to work if I like hanging out with these characters when they're just walking. And that's exactly what they did so well. That's exactly what you're talking
did
about.
it.
Like, these characters were so likable, or the ones that need to be likable were likable, and then there wasn't like smarmy villains among the walkers. I mean, really, there was no like you say, there's no mustache twirling villains in this one. There's guys who were a little more hard to like, but even them, they all had their moments where they showed their humanity. It just people who acted in a way, we talk about this all the time. You just want to see some people acting the way that you think people ought to act, where you go like, man, if I was doing this, I would act a little more like this. And I'm watching guys on screen going, I'd like to think I'd be kind of like these guys, the way they're acting on screen.
Yep, I wanted to get into this. This is one of the best decisions I think that this movie made, is that they didn't have the mustache twirling villain as one of the walkers. They have the
Yeah.
one guy who is pretty he
He's kind of
pushes
an
a lot of people's
irritant.
buttons. But they really portray that. I mean, I don't think I'm stepping out of line to say they really want you to believe that guy has like mental illness, like maybe like some bipolar or something like that. So I mean, he's not just a conventional like I am just going to be a jerk just to be a jerk, like you would see in so many movies like this. And you know, just as a guy that consumes a lot of movies, I feel like I've seen that so many times. So it was so refreshing to not have that in this movie.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. I didn't feel like anything in this movie really fell into tropes. I mean, I was kind of joking at the beginning about the Hunger Games, inevitable Hunger Games comparisons, and then all the other dystopian future. I mean, there's so many movies about pitting teenagers against each other in competitions in a dystopian
Yeah,
future.
yeah.
It'd be hard not to like have some tropes in it, and yet I didn't feel like anything in this movie where I was like, "Oh, here's the trope about this thing or that thing." It just all felt fresh.
It did. It felt really fresh. And you know, you talked right at the beginning about the runtime. It was a great runtime, I think, for this movie. I was a little concerned myself, and especially once I sat down and the movie started, and I realized pretty quickly they were really just going to get right into the walk. I bet within less
Yeah,
than 10 minutes they are walking. Don't you think?
yeah.
I bet it's
They
like 6 to 8 minutes.
and they don't build a lot of the world. Like you just have to kind of
No,
figure out, like we've talked about in other movies, they just kind of throw you into it, the simple premise, and you sort of figure out kind of what the world is like as they walk and talk, and that's about it.
that's it. It kind of, in a strange way, it kind of gave me Civil War vibes as far as that, as far as like not feeling
Yeah.
the need to build out the world. You just kind of have to learn what's going on in the world through the course, like the visuals of the movie, and then, like you said, just the dialogue. And this is such movie is such a great example of less is more. You know, like not every movie needs to be kind of stripped down to the bare minimum. Like something like Weapons, that obviously, you know, we're both high on, has so much going on, and it's got all these layers and stuff, and that works for Weapons. But you know,
Yeah.
here's a movie that doesn't need, you know, multiple points of view and complex chapters building on the previous chapter. I mean, this is a very straightforward, streamlined movie, and that was the right call for this movie.
Absolutely right. Absolutely
Yeah.
right. Uh, we've got to just get into this early because it's such an important part of the movie. The lead actors of this movie were absolutely fantastic.
Dude, these guys are so good together. I want these guys to make another movie together.
I do too. One of my first notes was I'm already annoyed that this movie won't get any Oscar love, but that both Cooper
Amen.
Hoffman and David Johnson would both be worthy picks for a nomination.
They absolutely would. These guys are so good individually in this movie, but they shine together.
Yes, they do. Um, so David Johnson, it's David Johnson, right? I got it in my notes here. Want to make sure I get there.
I
Yeah,
believe
David
that's
Johnson.
right. Yeah.
Spelling of Johnson is a little different. JonSson.
Yeah.
But David Johnson, we sung his praises when we saw Alien Romulus and just how good a job he did in
Yeah,
that
he
one.
was awesome in
And
that movie.
and we were like, it was so impressive how he showed range because he was an android, but he got like his settings reset and switched, and so he had like these different personalities, and just he did great at all of them. And then this movie, he's doing a totally different thing, and I'm like, I've seen only 2 movies of this guy, and I feel like I've seen so many different things that he can do. I'm just blown away. He was so good and likable in this movie. I don't know, like I felt like it it did seem unrealistic though. Like you kind of feel like I've known people like this maybe or interacted with people like this who are these kind of like really
Yeah.
positive guys. And then when he delivers his backstory, you're like, man, this just it was just incredible.
He's
And then yeah, yeah. If you want to go ahead, if you want to say something about him, that's
I I wasn't gonna add a whole lot. I was just gonna say he is just
yeah.
phenomenal in this movie, and he does the thing so well in this movie. Like everything he says feels like it carries weight. Like you understand why people like you understand like they have like the Musketeers or whatever, and it's like yeah, I would want to be with this guy, you know, on this walk and follow this guy, and everything he says, you're kind of like leaning in and like yep, that sounds good, that sounds really important. Like he just pulls that off so well.
Yeah, I do have one of my small nitpicks though is related to him, and that's when we're first
Oh.
introduced to the character. He arrives at the walk at the same time as Cooper Hoffman. Who Cooper Hoffman's playing our real like he's the kid we're following. We arrive at the walk with him, but as they're walking up, they see the one character who's supposed to be like the real fit and athletic guy, and they're both talking about, dang, this dude doesn't have any, he doesn't have an ounce of fat on him. He looks like a machine. And while they're having this conversation, David Johnson's wearing a sleeveless shirt, and he is just jacked. He is huge himself.
He's ripped, yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't think your character, the way it's written, and the things he's saying, is supposed to be as muscular as is. And that's not. I'm just joking. I don't blame David Johnson, but it's just funny. Like maybe cover his giant muscular arms with sleeves if you're gonna have him talking about some other guy looking too fit.
Or just let Hoffman deliver those lines.
Yeah, exactly. And then Hoffman, obviously, he can't talk about it without bringing up that it's in his DNA to be an actor. He's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son,
Of course,
and he's a chip off the old block. He's got it too.
He is so good. He's so good in this movie. He balances. You want me to go ahead? He balances being likable. No, you're good. He balances being likable, but you get a little bit of his backstory, and I won't spoil it yet. But he's kind of got some motives too, and I wouldn't say he's like unhinged at all, but like he balances like likable and lovable, but also like, oh, I can see this guy like having a little bit of a dark side to him, and I mean Philip Seymour Hoffman was the same way. He made a career out of playing these really flawed characters, so he's great.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's got the same thing his dad had, where he can play somebody who is very understated and yet has this like gravitas to them, where they don't have to do a whole lot to feel like he's communicating a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, just really honestly, kudos to everyone involved in this movie, because I mean, number one, like you said, it is literally just people walking. So I mean, everything they say, they have to do so much with their face and their voice and everything, and just everyone in this movie pulls off. Even the people that just have like the small parts, like everyone is believable in this movie, and that's just a testament to how good and how well written it is.
Exactly. I was gonna make mention of that too. Like outside of those two, all the cast of the people walking were pretty much unknowns to me. I looked at some of their IMDb's. A lot of them have worked quite a bit, but a lot in things I just haven't seen in TV shows or, smaller movies. I don't know. So, I was like, the whole cast is just pitch perfect. I mean, you had, like you said, the guy who's playing sort of the irritant, who looks like, discount Kurt Cobain. He did a really good job. The guy who was playing the guy who's supposed to be like the big athletic guy, he did a good job. All the guys in the Musketeers, they were just all good.
I thought that guy was great. The guy who gets sick and he's like, I've never sick, and now my body. Like, I thought that guy was great.
Yeah, he did a really good job.
How long did it take you to piece together that that kid is the kid from Jojo Rabbit in this movie?
I'm embarrassed to say, I was going to bring this up later, that I didn't piece it together till afterwards when I looked at the cast on IMDb.
Really?
And then I was like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? Like, I love Jojo Rabbit, and like, I just totally did not recognize the kid. Of course, he's a little older now, and his hair was dark.
He's got a lot older. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the cast was pretty incredible.
I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, let's talk through. There's not like so many beats of this movie to talk through, so I think we can kind of talk through the major beats of this movie. To just talk about what happens, because I mean, it is like our audience might still be wondering, like, how is this a whole movie about people just walking? So
yeah,
it is that. So the movie starts with we start in, I believe, in the car with Cooper Hoffman's character and his mom as she's going to drop him off for the walk. And one thing I was unsure about, which the previews had me thinking that they enter this contest and maybe they don't find out until they're walking that it's the possibility of like death, right? Because the previews, as an audience, you don't know. They like start the competition walking, and then it shows you like a guy falls behind in the shot, and it shows their shocked looks on their faces, which they are shocked, but you kind of start to figure out early because the mom's very emotional about taking him and wanting him to back out, and you're like, oh, do they know like that this is possibly fatal? So, you piece that together quickly. So she drops him off, and can't successfully talk him out of not going. And you kind of get to meet the group a little bit as they're all sitting around chatting a little bit. Kind of figure out who your key players are going to be. and I might have to step out for just 1 second. But should we pause, or you want to carry this conversation?
It's up to you. You're the boss. You tell me what to do.
I just have to hand off car. I'm blocking somebody in. This is so embarrassing.
It happens. This is podcasting, man.
All right, it's all you. I'll be right back.
I got this. Okay, so how we doing, everybody? Now, so yeah, like Jeremy was saying, you get the meet the cast kind of, and they handle that really well. They don't spend too much time on it. They just keep things moving very quickly. So you meet these people, and like I said, this movie is not a movie that gets bogged down with unnecessary details. And here comes Jeremy, so I can wait just a second, I bet. Hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I know right where you were. I could hear you the whole time.
Okay, good. Yeah, it does a really good job. Just like you were saying, you kind of meet your cast, you meet your players, and again, because like I was saying, this movie is very streamlined and stuff. You just learn enough. You don't have to go real deep into who these people are. You don't even really have to go real deep into what their motivations are for doing this. You just kind of get their personality traits, and for this movie, that works. A lot of times in movies we'll go like, I don't know who these people are. Why should I care about these people? But I think the premise of this movie is interesting enough. The idea of this long walk is interesting enough. So you just give me a couple of beats about these characters, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah. And they do a great job of giving you just what you need before the race starts.
Exactly.
The major, the character is sort of the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
He's always up on the back of this truck, just kind of giving them this kind of BS motivational speeches. But
right.
He says, like, I'm not going to go through the whole rule book with you. They've all supposed to have read it on their own. He goes, so just here's the main beats. And then that's all you need as a viewer. And then you get to start figuring things out. Like, they just let you figure it as you go. Like, you see Cooper Hoffman drink from his canteen and then say his number, canteen swap. And they just
canteen.
And they swap out a canteen. You're like, okay, that's how they get their drink. And you see them like eating from these little like tube things and having a discussion about it. You're like, okay, that's how they get their food. Like, they didn't have to explain it all out beforehand. They just do it.
This movie does
a
really good job. Yeah, this movie does a really good job of answering your questions for you. I think, Jeremy, I know you're the boss, but I think we should just go ahead and address the elephant in the room, that there's just a tremendous amount of pooping in this movie.
There is.
And they do not sidestep that question either. Like, what do these guys do when they have to go to the bathroom? Well, they just show you what has to be done when you go to the bathroom.
Yes, because inevitably in a movie like this where people are walking for literal days and they're not allowed to ever slow down, if they didn't address it, that would be like the elephant in the room where we'd have to nitpick and go like, what did they, they didn't ever have to go to the bathroom? No, they did. Yeah.
They do. They even take it a step further, and it's like, what happens if you get diarrhea while you're on the long walk? Well, don't worry. This movie is going to show you what happens.
Yes.
I feel like I just feel like we needed to get that out of the way.
Yeah. That's what's like I said at the beginning of this movie is so many things all at once, where because of what we talked about with how good a portrayal it is of friendship, I want to like recommend it to everybody and be like, oh, it's like a heartwarming story. And then you're like, well, it's also a story with tons of violence and gross pooping and things like that. Yeah. So maybe it's not for everyone, but
I will say this though. Yeah. I'm sure we were going to talk about it, and if you want to save it, we can. But the violence in this movie is violent. And it does a lot of times I shouldn't say it comes out of nowhere, because they always like, oh, my leg's cramping and stuff. I think the violence is so well done, though, because I think you need those moments to be kind of big and shocking, because you can almost get wrapped up in what kind of a sweet movie this is about friendship. You kind of need that reminder to jolt you back into the movie. Like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Like, this is heavy stuff. And it's such a good storytelling technique, because it's the dark cloud hanging over this movie of like, no matter how good these guys are, how much they're bonding or getting along, only one of them is going to make it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So the first time we get that violence, it's like the young kid, and you kind of think like, well, first off, like you said, only one person's going to make it, so you're already like, probably all these people are going to die, except for you kind of assume it'll be either Cooper Hoffman or David Johnson. You kind of assume that. So you're assuming everybody else that you meet, even if you like him, you're like, oh man, that character's probably going to die. But it's the young guy first, and you know they kind of did that on purpose. Like they wanted it to be as like shocking and as brutal as it could be. But they go and they put the gun to him, and they're all freaking out. They're like, "Get up, man! Keep moving!" And then when they fire the gun, this is where most movies I feel like you cut away, you show the other guy's faces. It's maybe a distant shot or something. No, I mean like right up,
Yeah.
point blank effects where his face just rips open on both sides, and he falls down. It's like that's one of the most gruesome portrayals of a execution I've ever seen in a movie. It is shocking.
It is shockingly violent, and I mean, this is a big spoiler alert. I guess we're into these spoilers, but yeah,
Oh yeah, sorry, buddy.
I don't know that I was prepared to see the kid from Jojo Rabbit just get the side of his face blown off like that. But it's really effective, and like I said, this is an example of violence really working well for the story. I think.
Yeah, it contrasts so starkly with, like you said, how it could just be a kind of this sweet movie of these guys walking along and pushing each other along, and then
Yeah.
you're right, the startling violence. It's also at this point in the movie, 20 minutes or so in, that we then get the title. Like after, I think
Yeah,
it's
that
after
was-
the first execution, the long
I
walk.
believe you're right. I kind of like it when
which
movies
is-
do that.
I feel like a lot of movies have been doing that lately. I just kind of made a note. I was like, I feel like I've been to a lot of movies this year where it's been late in, I mean, like not so late in the movie, but it's been a good like 10 minutes into movies, and then we get a title card. It just feels
Yeah.
like it's coming more common.
Yeah,
But,
I always think that's kind of a cool flourish that directors do sometimes.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So I mean, like it was an interesting choice, yeah, because you get that shock of violence, and then it's like a reminder of like, boom, yes, this is what you're in for. The long walk. This is
Yeah.
this is the movie
Well, it's
you
all-
are watching.
I think from like kind of an artistic standpoint, it's also kind of like once that first person's killed, it's like now the long walk has really begun. So then you get your
Yeah.
your title card. That's how I read it. But I always like it
Yeah.
when that happens.
We learn a little more about the dystopian state of the world, not through like descriptions of the dystopia, but in their discussion of Cooper Hoffman talks about how it's a voluntary lottery that you have to volunteer to enter to get drawn for this thing. Because as a viewer at first you're like, why would anybody enter this competition? You've got a 1 in 50 chance of not dying. But he talks about it, how they say it's voluntary, but he's like, have you ever known anybody that hasn't signed up for it? Like apparently
Yep.
things are so bad that this competition is worth it to people at the 1 in 50 chance that they get rich and have this wish granted. And that tells you everything you need to know about the dystopia. You don't need to know how it's a dystopia. You don't need to know people's living condition. You just need to know it's bad enough that that everybody enters this competition, or enters the lottery to be in a competition where they're probably going to die.
Exactly. And I thought that was such a smart beat of this movie to handle it that way.
Yes. And so like it's really kind of around this point that we get our best early moments of bonding, because they kind of are chatting as they're early going, but it has to get into where it starts to be a little bit of a grind for them before they really start to bond. Because once it's a struggle, that we've reached the point where somebody's already fallen off from cramps and been shot, that they all start having to like find those motivations and find like what's going to work for them. And again, David Johnson's playing the guy who's kind of the catalyst behind forming the little group of musketeers. He's like, hey, we'll all be in this together. We'll be the musketeers. And he's hilarious when he kind of pushes other guys out, like, nope, you're not part of the musketeers, just us.
Yeah. Yep.
It is all good stuff.
It's really good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Just little moments too about like, groups and cliques. And I thought they just handled all that stuff really well. Who fits
Yeah.
in where and feeling left out. And there's a lot of cool things going on there.
Yeah. And I thought one of the best little things in the movie too was they just have a discussion about like, hey, at what point did you realize you're probably not going to win this? And
Yeah.
they're like having a discussion about like, yeah, I know, like I'm probably not going to win. Like they're not ready to give up or anything, because
Nope.
once you give up, you're dead. But they're just kind of like, I get that I am probably not making it to the end of this
Yep.
thing, and
That
just
stuff
how they
was
feel
all
about
so.
that.
Yep, that stuff was all so well done, and everyone just had, like you said, such a matter of factness about it that really worked well.
Particularly again, David Johnson's character, where he's talking about like how, that thing in the mind that allows moms to like rescue their babies from having a car
Yeah.
on them, like, and he's like some of these guys are gonna have that. He's like, I don't have that. Like that's why I'm not
Yeah.
gonna win. I don't. He's like, I just don't have that. And you're like, wow, that's incredible thing for somebody to say. And for the way he says it with like, he doesn't say it like with a
Woe
dour
is me.
tone or
No,
phase. Yeah, he's just like, you know what? I know myself, and I know what's up. So
it's all
yeah,
really, really good. Really good.
yep. His character has the big scar on his face, which of course, as a
Hmm.
viewer, you're like curious about right away. They ask him about it, and
Like, not
somebody
yet.
had already said something like, "Let's just be quiet for a while." And when they ask him about that, he's like, "He's right. Let's just be quiet for a while," and just
Yep,
tucks it away. That sort of just builds the mystery of, okay, what's going on with this guy. I was a little
it
worried
does.
when they did that because I was like, he'd been such a likable character. I was like, don't let there be some sort of like, dark thing behind him that like, you,
Yeah.
you know, I was a little worried of that twist. He'd been too good of a guy at that point. Um,
Yeah, I
but
was
I'm just
really
gonna,
glad they
I'll go
didn't go
ahead.
that route too.
Yeah, because we're into spoilers. Like they don't. He stays a great guy throughout the whole movie. So
He sure does.
uh, you're
And
happy to root for him.
you're absolutely happy to root for him. And another thing that this movie does so well is everybody has like their highs and lows when they're on the walk. Like, all right, we can do this, and then they handle all that so well. Like, I love. There's a scene where Phil Hoffman. I knew I was going to do that. Cooper Hoffman. He kind of lashes out at at his friend,
David
and he's like,
Johnson.
"You
Yeah.
don't even." David Johnson. He's like, "You don't even care." And then later, like just a few minutes later, he's like, "Hey, man, I'm sorry about that. Like, I'm tired." It's like they handle all those moments really well of everyone's highs and lows, and everyone kind of has to play the part. Like sometimes you're the encourager, sometimes you need to be encouraged, and they just balance that so well, and everyone got just their little moments to shine, and man, it was just great.
Yeah. Uh, so the walk goes on. I mean, man, they're walking the entire movie. So you start to feel the fatigue as it goes from day to night and bad
Yeah.
weather and good weather. Like, uh, they eventually reach this steep hill,
Yep,
and that takes
that
out like
was really well
half of
done.
them. And
Oh man, they just
the one
start
guy who's
people just start getting
yeah,
shot.
the one guy who's really fit for whatever reason seems to know a lot about the long walk competition, and he says
Hmm.
things. He says something like, "This hill, took out like 60% of people like the last time they did it," or something like. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he
Yep.
knows like this is a big deal in this, and so that thins out the herd big time. That was sort of a big part of the movie, and Cooper Hoffman almost gives up on the hill, and David Johnson comes and, as he does numerous times throughout the film, where they do for each other. He puts his arm around him and is like, just keep going, and pushes him through. And they're like,
One
look, we've reached
one
the
foot in
top.
front of the
We've made
other.
it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And just stuff like that. That's that beautiful moments of like friendship where even though they are competing against each other and the competition is life and death, they're like having this genuine camaraderie. So
Yeah, it's really
uh,
great.
just just really cool. And
It
then
is,
it's
and the movie
I
does.
keep sorry, go on.
I was gonna say the movie does such a great job. Like we talked about a while ago, everything's very simple and streamlined in this movie. So I love the idea of like, hey, if you get strikes, like you can walk them off. Like one goes away for
Right.
an hour and stuff. They do all that stuff really well too. Everything that this movie needs to balance well, it does. Because that's a big thing
You're
for a
right.
minute, where the Hoffman, where Cooper Hoffman gets like X amount of strikes, and then later on they're like, "Hey, you walked him off. Like it's been enough time now." So it's like everything is very easy for us to understand as an audience member.
Yeah. Uh, Good moment of when their Asian friend is really struggling, and Cooper Hoffman, they got the watch that tells them how fast they're walking, and they have to stay about 3 miles per hour. And he goes, "How fast are we
Mm-hmm.
all walking?" And they were all like, I don't know, 3.6 or something
Three
like
point
that.
four.
3 point, and he goes, "Let's take it down to like right
Yep.
at the
3 point.
level, basically."
Mm-hmm.
And they all go down. They're like, "Oh, that is a little easier." But then he makes the point like, "Let's not stay at this too long, though." And you're like, "Why wouldn't you want to stay right?" Oh, because any error and you've got another strike and three strikes and you're
Yep.
you're out. So like you want to keep a little faster pace so you're not within the like one little bad step of error. But just that strategy of let's walk for a little while at that dangerously slow pace just to catch our breath and then get back up to pace. Things like that are just well thought out. Things that
The,
you're
mhm. They're
gonna have
nice
to think about
touches.
on it. Yeah.
They're nice touches, and it's like we talk about a lot of times. It makes it so much easier to kind of be engaged in a movie when the characters are doing things and behaving in ways. It's like, oh yeah, that's really smart, and that makes sense. And even though it's, of course, a circumstance we couldn't understand, that stuff is relatable, which makes you latch on more to these characters.
Absolutely. And I may be getting a couple things out of order, remembrance wise, but that's once they get up the hill and it's thinned out, you really start to get more of like early on. Of course, there you don't get to know a lot of the characters that die early.
Yeah.
They save those, but then you start getting the characters you got some attachment to, and you get some of the deaths that are a little more brutal. Frankly, probably the most brutal death in this is a guy who falls down and a tank just
Oh
runs
man,
over his legs, and he's just screaming.
Oh.
And then even the guys walking are like, why won't they just put him out of his misery and finish him? As they're just still calling out the warnings and like giving him time, like he's gonna be able to get up or something.
Yeah. But it's like they have to do things so by the book. Like, yeah, that was rough, but it made for a good scene.
Yeah, it was really rough. You got the kid who had like broke his ankle and he's like trudging
Oh
along
man,
on his like bloody broken ankle, and
that
that was pretty rough.
that got like a in my theater from people. We're like, oh, kind of one of those deals.
Yeah, and then you've got um, when their friend, the Asian kid, when he finally realizes he's done, he had made the headline about, I just feel like when this gum is done, it means I'm done, even though the gum had been out of flavor for forever. And he kind of slows down and he pulls the gum out and looks at it, and you just know.
It's
And
so well done.
then he kind of like turns around and he kind of charges the truck, and they
Yeah,
shoot him, but they just shoot him in the stomach, and he just falls down. And the kid who knows everything, seems to know everything that's going on, goes, "It's a gut shot. They're doing it as a warning, so nobody else charges the
yeah.
trucks, so he'll just bleed out." And it's like, so then he's just on the
It's
ground, just like
brutal.
screaming, and it's yeah, you're like, man, it's rough. It does kind of make sense though, like that they would do something like that as a like, hey, this is
Like
your
a
warning. Don't
warning.
charge the trucks. We're not just going to shoot you. We'll shoot you in the stomach and leave you.
Yeah.
It's even worse.
They
So
they handle everything so well. Like there's one point, I guess it's when Mark Hamill's explaining the rules at the beginning. He's like, if you try and run off the track, we will instantly shoot you. So then later on in the movie, somebody does that and they show it. It's like they do such a good job of making these, like Mark Hamill or like the government or whatever is kind of the bad guys, and they do such a good job of making them the bad guys with a bunch of characters who you don't even get to know, or kind of like you kind of understand their motivations but not fully, but they handle all that really well too. And then like
right,
the characters on the walk, like they let them get mad at the right moments too. Like that one guy, I don't remember which guy, is maybe like the longer haired guy, like he just gets mad and he just runs up and grabs the gun from one of the soldiers and shoots him. And it's just like, screw it, like if I'm going down, like I'm taking, like they let them get mad and frustrated at the perfect times in this movie, I thought.
yeah, I think you're right. Um, so you just brought up Mark Hamill plays the major. I honestly I didn't even realize it was Mark Hamill. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure you clocked it right away. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, once I knew, I was like, oh, I should have known. But it's Mark Hamill. I mean, he's got the military outfit, the
You
sunglasses,
never
he's
see
got a
his
goatee,
face.
and he's doing, not his natural voice. He's doing like a gruff voice of the major.
Hmm.
And so my only thought was like, I feel like this part was written for Brian Cox, but they got somebody else to do it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like when I figured out it was Hamill, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And he does. Yeah, I mean, he's a voice actor. Like
Hmm.
probably what he's actually got more credits on his IMDb for doing voice work
Right.
than just regular acting, and he's got a good voice for it. But like I
He
said,
does.
it does. It doesn't explore the character a lot. He doesn't have a lot to do other than just standing there and like saying things in his gruff voice.
I'm not 100% sure it's a good performance. Like and I think it's meant to be that way, but it's just very generic. I mean, like I'll just go ahead and say anything other than the actual walk, is by far the least interesting part of this movie. And like Judy Greer is great. Like she's just been consistently good in movies for like 20 years. Personally, I think I would have just cut the mom character out of this movie.
Yeah, I think you could have cut her out. I also think I like Judy Greer, and I think she has an inherent likableness, which I think is what they were thinking when they cast her in this. Like, you need to
Hmm.
just like the mom in a little bit that we're going to show her. I thought it was weird to have somebody who, frankly, at this point in their careers, she's more recognizable than any of the people walking.
Right.
And so I was like, that's kind of distracting to have. Like, if they just had sort of a no name, you know, lady
Hmm.
who's supposed to be this nice mom, I actually think it would have been less distracting than like, hey, it's Judy Greer, somebody that people actually recognize being this bit part in this movie.
It's a really bit part, and it's kind of strange. I mean, you can stop me if you don't want to jump this far ahead, but the ending, I mean, and by the ending, I mean like literally like the last like 2.5 minutes of this movie just did not land very well for me. And it felt
Hmm.
like you were getting some kind of payoff with Judy Greer being the mom that you just never got. And that was just a little clunky to me. And that would be like my one nitpick of this movie.
Gotcha. Yeah. Um, so yeah, we get to somewhere amidst all these, like when the main characters start dropping or the characters you get to know start dropping, we also finally
Hmm.
get to some of those backstories that the characters were a little more like coy about early in the movie. So
Hmm.
you find out that Cooper Hoffman is there because the major had executed his father, because
Right. His
that's
dad was
another
still
scene where
trying to
you,
teach him about the old ways of life. And
yeah. And so his whole motivation is revenge. He wants to win so that he can, with his one wish, ask for a gun, and then he'll use it to kill the major. Is what he says.
hmm.
And he kind of makes the point like, I know I'm not the fittest guy here. He's like, but nobody wants this more than I do. Is what he says.
And that
and
stuff was great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
that stuff was really cool.
yeah, like I said, I bought it because I'll be honest, like there is a point early in the movie where you hate being judgmental, but you just look at Cooper Hoffman and you go like, you're not the guy I would pick in a walking
Yeah.
competition against
Yeah.
a lot of these guys who just look a lot fit or just thinner and they don't have the weight to carry. He's not a real heavy guy, but he's just a bigger built guy like his dad
Hmm.
was.
Right.
But when you hear it like that, like he's a driven guy and he
That
does,
that's a cool touch.
and he does have that kind of like, I'm a little bigger, but it's sort of an athletic bigger, like a strong, like a
Yeah.
football player or something. Not just he doesn't just look like an out of shape guy. So
No.
um,
And I thought all that stuff was great. I just think maybe it's just because I wanted to just stay on the walk so much, and they don't cut away from it for very long. You get that flashback with his dad, and it doesn't take up a lot of the runtime. But I think that all could have been conveyed through just Cooper Hoffman's dialogue. I don't think we needed to cut away, to the flashback and the dad and stuff.
yeah, I think you're right. I'm really glad they didn't make it a thing with other characters either. Like they could have
I
started
am too.
showing flashbacks. Like they just keeping it simple, keeping it focused.
Hmm.
And then it's a little later, but you finally get David Johnson's backstory, and he tells about his scar. He's like, "You asked me about my scar earlier," and he talks about how basically he said he's been on a walk his whole life
Yeah,
because
that was
his
cool.
parents died when he was really young, and he'd just been like in all sorts of bad situations, and basically felt like he didn't have a place he belonged, or he didn't have a people, and all this. And he kind of ends it by saying, "But I got a brother now," like as an encouragement to him, like
It's
and
good
you're
stuff,
just like,
man.
you're just so heartfelt. You're like, man, I did not expect to be like on the verge of
This many
tears of
emotions.
like, but yeah, in the long walk, and I think it was
Yeah,
around this point that I'm just like, man, this movie's awesome. Like I'm
I
loving
know.
this.
Same. And again, to heap more praise on those two guys, it's good dialogue and stuff. But if you don't buy the performances from these two guys, it's just not working as effectively. Which is like you said, why it's just a shame these guys are not going to get any Oscar consideration.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Uh, we get down to, I think the final five are three of the Musketeers and the athletic dude who's been kind of sick the whole time, and then the
Hmm.
is it like kind of the jerk guy? Is he might be one of the last five? Anyways, the jerk guy
He's
goes before any of those other ones, and he's the one guy who basically decides he's going to go out on his own terms. He turns around and just starts like he has this whole emotional thing where he wants to make sure everybody like doesn't hate him
That was really
because they
well
kind of
done
do.
too, where he's like, go tell him that I'm a musketeer," and like that's what I mean when it's like it's really clearly trying to portray this guy as someone with mental health issues, and like sometimes in movies that stuff can be a little heavy-handed, I think, but I thought it was handled really well here.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
absolutely.
he stabs himself, and so then you've got the two main guys, you've got the athletic guy, you've got kind of the comic relief guy who's chewing the gum, and then you have the other dude who's like the Christian guy who talks
Yeah.
about like the Bible, and so like, no, the Bible doesn't say you can't say this word, and like they have got a lot of good
Yeah.
dialogue. That's a great
Yeah.
scene too when that guy when he basically decides like he's done. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna stop," and he's like, "Just do me one favor, like don't watch." I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy cow, man, this is good stuff."
Yeah. Because they had walked for a little while with they both had him on either side and were dragging him along. And the athletic guy again, he's the guy who kind of understands what's going on physically, and the guy had had a nosebleed for a while, and the guy
Yeah,
who's
he's like
athletic
his
has basically
body's
said
just
like, yeah, his body's failing, like he's done,
yeah.
and and
One
yeah,
thing
he
they do
just
really well in this movie too, I think, is when someone does decide they're going to give up, like the people around him are like support, like okay, man, like they're supportive, but they don't really try and talk people out of it too much because they also do know, like, well, that just increases my chances of winning. Like, so that's just
yeah
good screenwriting, I think. Like, like where they don't come across as jerks, but they're also just like, all right, if that's the choice you want to make, then
yeah.
that's your choice.
I think they all also get that they're like a hair away from making the same choice, so they like I get
Yeah,
it. Like
they
I
get
don't
it.
feel
They
like
get
I could
it.
hardly go another step. So when you give up, it's like
I get
and
it, man. I'm probably not too far behind you.
right. So that guy
It's good
just,
stuff.
like I said, he had him on either side of him, and he kind of pulls their arms off, like they don't let him go. He kind of just like you got to go and pushes him along,
Yeah,
and that's I think his death might be the only one that they do just kind of show in the background because they follow walking along with them, not looking back, just trying to stare
it's
straight
really
ahead, and then you see the
it's really well
execution
done.
deep in the background. Yeah. Um, Eventually, it comes down to just the three, and they're walking at night. Um, the two leads and the athletic guy, and the athletic guy finally, it's almost like everybody gets to have their little spiel right before they're finally done. Each one's emotional though. That's the thing. Like you would almost think, is it going to get repetitive because every time somebody drops
No,
off, we're going to have like everybody, oh, here we go again, their big speed. It doesn't ever get repetitive. It's
nope.
always interesting. My one nitpick that I have with the movie kind of comes in this scene because he reveals, like, you want to know how I know so much about all this? The major's my father, and I wanted to win this thing and request to like go to his house and basically like be welcomed by his dad. And then he goes, but I also found out like there's tons of us. Like he's fathered children all over the place, and
Yeah,
so when he kind of gives up, he just walks over and gives up and basically tells him, "Go ahead, shoot me."
yep.
And I was like, I thought for sure he was at least gonna confront the major, shout out something, "Hey, you jerk, you're my dad, and I came here to,
Right.
like I kind of wanted that moment, and I was a little disappointed he didn't do that moment, which sometimes sometimes it's fitting. If a movie gives you every little moment you want like that, it starts to feel too much like
Right.
a movie. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did, I just wanted that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So
That was a good scene too. Like, and that was a cool reveal. Like, it wasn't like a twist necessarily. It was just like, oh, what an interesting reveal, and just kind of adds another layer to this general character just being
yeah,
despicable.
I thought the way they did it for sure, because I mean, like I actually suspected it. Like there's something happened early in the movie that made me think it. There was like a moment where the major and him like had eye contact early, and I thought, oh,
Really?
I bet it's his son or something like that. And so when he said, the major's my son, I was like, I'm not surprised. But then when he said it, like I didn't even know if he knew, and then I found out he has all these sons. I was like, well, this totally, like I did not see that coming. The
Yeah.
that element of it. So.
Yeah, it was
But
well
yeah, then
done.
he's gone, and you're down to just your two. And at this point, I was like, I don't know, edge of my seat, just going like, what are they going to do? What's the movie going to do? How's this movie going to give me an ending that I can live with? Because I don't want either of these guys to lose, and what's going to
Yeah.
happen? As they're walking in, and they're walking into this town where people are waiting and cheering, which I thought was a weird choice.
Mm-hmm.
That if I had another little nitpick that doesn't matter too much, it's kind of like, boy, they really knew to time things that perfectly, like that this would be the end stretch after days and hundreds of miles, that the crowd's
Yeah.
waiting right at the end. Um,
That was a little
but
convenient, wasn't it?
they do it really well where they're walking along and David Johnson does the thing I the way I thought it was going to end, where he kneels down and Cooper Hoffman walks a few steps and he looks back and he's like, "No, what are you doing?" He comes back and he's like, "It's you, man. You go win it." Like, he's like, what, I can't remember what he says, but like, I'm gonna have you do it. And
Either.
yeah, and Cooper Hoffman's like, "No, like, I'm not ready for you to go yet." And he kind of picks him up. He's like, "Just walk with me a little longer at least," which was a sweet moment, like just walk. And he's like, "Okay, I'll walk with you a little longer." And he starts walking, and David Johnson's like, "Man, all right," he kind of is laughing like, "I'll go with you as much as I can." And he doesn't realize Cooper Hoffman then stopped and knelt down and just switched places with him. And then he realizes it and runs back. And he's like, "You can't do that." And Cooper Hoffman has that great line. He goes, "It's got to be you because you see it. You've been the positive guy. You're the guy who wants to win and do something positive." Like, it's not the exact words he's using, but that's what he's saying. And I'm like, that's a great call from Cooper Hoffman. He's right. Like, Cooper Hoffman's like, "I've been consumed by vengeance, and now I see, like, your ways are right, not mine. So go do things your way." And sure enough, that's when he runs out of time and warnings, and they execute Hoffman. Well, actually, the Major comes over and does it himself. He executes the last guy. Apparently, that's part of the tradition.
And see, this is why.
Yeah,
It is heartbreaking, and it's all done really well. But this is kind of why I wish they would have just left the mom character out, because it just felt like they kind of just at the very end abandoned that plot to me. And he just kind of has that throwaway line of like, "Hey, tell my mom I'm sorry." And that made me just feel like a little cheated out of something. And so that's what I meant when I say like literally like that last like 2 minutes just didn't completely land for me. Like I get it, but I don't know. It just ultimately it may just be because I didn't want to see either guy die.
yeah. But you just kind of had to. I don't think there was any way out of it that wouldn't have felt like a cheat as well.
You're right. They maybe just painted themselves into a tough corner to get out of.
Yeah, because I mean, if you pull the Hunger Games thing and say like, "Oh, we're both going to commit suicide and you'll have no winner," like they did in the Hunger Games, so that you can cheat and get out of it.
Then it's just a Hunger
they were going to do that.
off.
Yeah, exactly. And this movie was already like this. This is a movie that doesn't pull punches. This was not a feel good movie. It just had good feelings throughout it. Like that's what it balances. That it's not a feel good, but it is a feel good. So well. But anyways, in that moment, great acting from David Johnson as he is just wrecked watching this new, his close friend here that he's
his
made
brother now
get executed, and you could see it. And I knew this. You knew it. I don't know if you pinned it right away what was going to happen. The way he was so distraught, and they came over, and the Major's like, "What's your wish?" And he pauses for a moment. I'm like, dude is 100% now. He's so mad. He's going to do what Cooper Hoffman's character wanted to do. Cooper Hoffman's character saw his dad get executed by the Major, and he's like, all I could think about was getting the Major back. And now he just watched Cooper Hoffman get executed by the Major, and all he can think is, I just want to get him back. So he says, "For my wish, I want one of those guns." And the Major's like, "Hey, let's make sure we arrange for him to have it." He's like, no, I want that one.
Yeah.
And they're like, "All right, give it to him." And he picks it up. But then there is that pause. There is that moment. He doesn't just grab it and shoot. He holds it up. And the Major, does this talking back like, "You don't want to do it. It's not too late. You got all these riches waiting on you." And he pauses and he pauses. And then finally he's like, "This is for my friend," whatever he says, shoots him.
Yeah.
And then, it's just dramatic music. It's kind of slow-mo. He drops the gun. He turns. He kind of walks off. And we're done.
Movie over.
And movie over.
Yeah.
I actually did not think about this, but I heard guys talking in the lobby as we were all leaving the movie, a group of guys that were sitting behind me watching, and they're like, "Do you think that he was dead? Like he got executed as soon as he shot the Major?" Because when he turned and started walking down the street, all of a sudden there was no people there. And I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like that there was people all around before, and then the last shot was him walking like a bare street. I don't know. I think it's supposed to be intentionally one of those ambiguous endings where you can interpret however you want. Like if you want to think, yeah, probably he shot the Major and then immediately he was killed too. Or if you want to assume like he did just get to walk away because, I don't know, whatever, he's the winner and, you're allowed to do that if you're the winner. I don't know. But ambiguous
I agree with you.
sure.
I think it's meant to be ambiguous, and I'm certainly not disagreeing with anything you're saying, but that whole last couple minutes just did not quite give me the satisfaction I wanted it to, and I don't know what I wanted. I really don't. Maybe I did just kind of want both these guys to ride off into the sunset together, and you're right. I will say this: the ending did feel true to the rest of the movie, which I am very glad for. I don't all of a sudden want the lame happy ending. I don't want them to just do the Hunger Games where they both find a way out. But I don't know, something about it just I thought it was like the movie had me like 98.5% of the way. And that last 1.5% just didn't quite land for me. But that is, let me be clear, that is a very minor nitpick.
Yeah. I get that because that happens in movies sometimes. You realize like the buildup that the final payoff is just never going to be satisfying because, like you said, they painted themselves into a corner, or there's just not going to be a satisfying option. I just did. I found this one satisfying, so it worked for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's the great
yeah.
thing about movies. We can all see them just a little bit differently.
Absolutely. So I did want to just shout out a little bit the director of this movie, Francis Lawrence. Talk about a movie that's already going to be compared to Hunger Games a lot. I looked it up. He's directed like over half the Hunger Games movies, I think, or at least like 4 Hunger Games movies.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, yeah, like
makes sense, doesn't it?
And it's interesting because apart from the obvious dystopian, violent, teens in a competition subject matter, nothing really feels similar between this movie and the Hunger Games. This is a much more graphic, violent, dark, and it's.
I mean, it's just a
simpler,
much more
so
grown up movie. Yeah,
yeah.
The Hunger Games
is much more spectacle, world building, all of that.
The world building is exactly what I was going to say. Hunger Games is much more world building. This is very like the movie, just a straight, path forward.
And it's amazing to me how that can be so much more interesting sometimes. I mean, sometimes it is great to get a whole world building thing, but sometimes you watch this and you go like, why is this so much more interesting than the Hunger Games where they're trying to explain all the dystopia and the different things and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes that's just like, just get me to the interesting part, the characters.
It's like I said, some movies work really well with these layers, weapons, great example. And some movies just need to be, a straightforward, forward moving story.
Yeah. So it definitely made me feel better about this guy as a director. Not that I had any bad feelings toward him being a Hunger Games director, but I never watched the Hunger Games and I'm like, this director,
I'm a Francis Lawrence guy now. Yeah.
Exactly. He also directed some other movies, I Am Legend, which, again, this guy just apparently likes dystopias. So
he must love them.
Yeah, he directed Red Sparrow, which I never saw, Jennifer Lawrence movie. And he directed Constantine, which is, Constantine's like a cult classic almost, maybe. Like, I feel like I see a lot of stuff online about people loving it, but I was kind of indifferent towards Constantine when it came out. I was like, it's a movie. There it is. I've seen
it. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
But I mean, this guy's put together a nice resume.
Yeah. And then it was written by adapted as a screenplay by J.T. Molnar. And J.T. Molnar wrote and directed Strange Darling last year, which I thought was really interesting.
One of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, made me wonder, I wonder why he didn't direct this one. And obviously I'm happy with the way it turned out, so I'm not like, ooh, I wish he would have directed. But just curious when somebody does writing and directing, when they just write something and then pass it off to somebody else.
It is interesting. Taking the Alex Garland route.
Is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. There's just a couple of IMDb trivia things that I wanted to touch on before we talked a little about reception and box office. And that's that one of the only things that Stephen King, one of the only bits of feedback he gave when they got permission to adapt this to a screenplay was he said, yeah, my only request is that you change the speed in his book originally, or his story originally, it was 4 miles per hour. He said, change it to 3 because I realized 4 was just unrealistic. It's too fast for them to maintain it and to have those conversations the way they have. And I was like, that's interesting that all those years later, as a writer, so that's just something that irked him. He's like, I should have done this instead of that. So fix that for me.
Yeah, that's a cool note. Yeah, it's a good note.
And then really, there wasn't a lot about the movie itself, but I wanted to shout out the theater that did the special screening. There's a theater somewhere that did a screening where they put in treadmills and people had to walk on the treadmill at 3 miles per hour. And if they fell, I think it probably had the same warning system as the movie, but if you got your strikes, you were kicked out of the movie. And I'm like, it would have been a struggle for me. I don't know if I would have made it through the movie.
Dude, I don't know that I would have either.
I'll say this: if you're ever going to get me to walk that long it's probably the way to do it because I would
Yeah,
so be determined to see the end of the movie. But I'm
absolutely.
all for theaters doing fun things like that.
I am too. Bring it on.
Yeah, that was super cool. The movie's gotten good reception on
It
Rotten
has. I was glad
Tomatoes.
to see
It's
that.
yeah, it's got a 90% from the critics and 85% from audiences. So I mean, maybe I shouldn't be so quick to be certain it won't get Oscar love. I would still be very surprised, but anytime a movie's
Yeah.
getting a lot of critical praise, um, maybe it'll surprise me. Maybe it will. Maybe we'll see something like a David Johnson for Best Supporting Actor. I don't know.
I hope so, man. That'd be a
Yeah.
great world.
I do feel like that putting him in Best Supporting Actor is one of those, bit of a cheat, but it's right up there with like Pitt winning for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where supporting actor, he's kind of a co-lead, but
He's basically the co-lead, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't care if it was actor or supporting actor, just as long as he got recognized.
Absolutely. This movie had I saw a $20 million budget, which makes sense. It looks good, but it's also like, what did you have to do
Pretty
besides
simple.
film a lot on an open road? Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, can you tell me anything about how it's done at the box office this weekend?
I'm not sure how it did worldwide, but in the U.S. it made a little under $12 million, which is, I mean, it's a respectable opening. It really is. It opened in like fourth place, but like some anime movie made like $70 million in the U.S. this weekend. I don't think anybody saw
what?
that coming. Nobody expected The Conjuring to have as big of an opening as it did last weekend. So I am happy about people going out to the movie. So this had that's not an opening to be embarrassed of or anything. And with the good word of mouth and the good reviews it's getting, I think it has a decent chance of kind of sticking around for 4 or 5 weeks. I don't think it's going to turn into like an enormous blockbuster, but I think it's going to be okay.
I think you're right, and I think word of mouth will definitely help this movie. I think there's a lot of people
I
who
think so.
had the same thoughts we did of like kind of an interesting concept, but I don't know. Let me see. Let me have somebody else go see it and let me know. Is it
Yeah.
a boring movie about people walking for an hour and a half, or is it actually an interesting movie? And it's a good movie. So
It's a good movie. So I hope it does have some staying power. I really do. I
yeah,
want to see
for
this
sure.
movie get into profit.
Yeah. What I am curious about is how eager I'll be to rewatch this movie. It's a not an easy watch. It is a rough watch,
It is
but
a
I
rough
do love
watch.
it. So, like I said, I kind of want to recommend it to friends, but it's not quite the one where I'm like in a rush to be like, hey, let's all go see it right now because I'm like, man, it's heavy. So
It's heavy.
yeah. But again, just in case it hasn't been totally clear, strong recommend. If you think you can handle the violence and some grossness, there's a lot of really great stuff in here.
Strong recommendation for me too. And this is the exact kind of movie that I want to see succeed. Just a very moderately budgeted movie that's not interested in world building, and I don't have to have seen, part four to understand the upcoming prequel and this character from this saga. Da 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 da. This is just hopefully just a one-off type of deal. It's not, I guess, like you said, it's from a Stephen King, I think, short story, so it's not original IP, but I mean, it's not superhero. It's not, the 12th reboot of something. Like it feels original. So it's the
Yeah, I
exact
mean,
kind of movie that I want to see succeed.
I had never heard of it, so
Yeah, yeah. So I want this movie to win. I really do, and it's really good movie.
yeah, I do too. Well, Andy, at some point during this week, I don't know if we'll have a chance to get together and do an episode about it this week or not, but I do still want to go see the Spinal Tap sequel, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. And then
Same.
next week we have Him, which is a movie that I know you had pegged as a movie that you're looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Of course, having Jordan Peele's name attached to it, even though it's not his director, and I know like you could kind of sense people don't always get that difference. Like the preview came on in the theater and it was like from producer Jordan Peele, and people in the theater were like, I heard people going like, "Ooh, Jordan Peele movie," and I'm like,
It's not.
well,
but
it's yes and no. Like he's got some connection to it, but it's not the same as when he writes and directs a movie. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm curious. I'll go see it mainly because I want to have the discussion with you.
right, and let me be clear. Like I am looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I'm a little nervous too because I see the preview at every movie I go see, it does feel like there is a lot going on in this movie. But I'm going to go into it.
Yeah, it
I'm
looks
looking forward.
weird.
I'm honestly, it looks really weird. I'm honestly looking forward to seeing the dude from I Know What You Did Last Summer, which was a terrible movie, but I want to see him in something like this and see what he can do in a
Yeah,
movie
because
that. Surely this movie is not going to be as bad as I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I do want to see what this guy can do.
yeah, hopefully. And then 2 weeks from now, we've got the new Leo PTA movie, One Battle After Another. So that's another one I'm curious about. So
Same. It's nice, in this time of the year, which is a lot of times a dead time for movies. It is cool to have movies that we're looking forward to seeing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is the part where we say it. People, let us know if you saw The Long Walk. What did you think? And did you think it was a beautiful story of friendship, or were you like, this is a gross and traumatic movie with violence and poop?
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah. And then join us next time where we're either talking about Spinal Tap or him, or maybe both.
Yeah.
But yeah, just go see movies.
Go to the theaters, man. People are. It's been a good month, so keep going.
Absolutely. Yep. And we will see you guys next time.
See you next time.